Welcome to a special edition of Money Info with the one and only, the great wise Oz himself, Mr. Charles Moskowitz. Charles, it's been a while. How are you?
I'm okay, surviving.
Surviving in Beantown yet?
Yeah, so it's the beginning of the summer here, and we just had our first 290-degree days, which is something I guess you guys see pretty much all the time. It was 90 degrees and it was beautiful for 2 days. And then there was a frost alert for overnight. So,
Yeah.
what can I say?
Well, it's so funny. Of course, we carry the Mets here, and one of their announcers who's been with the team for like 40 years, he just sits there and goes, "What am I doing sitting here when I could be in my condo in Boca? It's 60 degrees outside."
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is plenty of that.
Yeah. Wow. So, it's been a while since we've talked to you. Not much has gone on in the stock market at all. It hasn't been volatile or anything. So everything's just sliding along famously, right?
Okay, so I'm going to remind you of something that I was talking about on a very regular basis when I was on last, which was the fourth quarter of last year.
Yep.
And if you recall, I was busy saying that things were really getting out of hand and that new highs in the market really didn't mean anything because underneath the headline stuff, there was actually a pretty stealth bear market going on. I think at the time we were talking about the 4 or 5 biggest stocks in the S&P and the QQQ, which is the NASDAQ 100 ETF, that were in a spot where 20% of those stocks were actually down year to date. So while Apple and Amazon and some of the other big names were moving the market higher, in point of fact, unless you were in those stocks, you weren't in a bull market. You were in a very bad market. And sure enough, as we made new highs right through the last day of trading and the first day of the new year, from that moment on, it was over. And, what we have now is a pretty interesting bear market. And I'm always amazed when I hear these jackasses. You could say that on the radio, right? When you hear these,
you just did.
Yeah, when you hear these jackasses who are part of the administration come out and talk about how great things are and how terrific the consumer is doing. And I had a real problem with that because from my perspective, as somebody who does the shopping in my family, the inflation that I was seeing in groceries was just unbelievable. And so, I shifted the market letter over to have more of an inflation bent to it by adding, I think, 11 or 12 commodity price charts every week. And, railing about how, the consumer is great when they're spending money that fell out of the sky onto them. And that as soon as that stopped, you were going to see a change. And of course, my favorite whipping post was the airlines and the cruise lines. And the reason for that is because in order to stay alive, we paid the airlines billions of dollars so that they could keep their people on staff. And what's the biggest problem right now with airlines? Staffing. They literally cancel and dramatically delay flights like there is no tomorrow. And they always cite, well, it was the weather. Well, most of the time there is some weather, but not every weekend. And the cruise lines and the airlines both mortgaged everything that they had to stay involved. Now airline fares are up 48%. Cancellations are in the thousands every week. You know, I was supposed to be in Washington, D.C. yesterday and today. And then it got canceled, which was a great relief, because last night on the local news, I was looking at live pictures from Logan where there were plenty of canceled flights and 4-hour lines. And that's not even the holiday yet. And that doesn't include the number of people who will be driving with $5 and $6 and $7 a gallon gas. I mean, you know, you have to be concerned about a market that is based on consumers when consumer credit is at a new all-time high. And, you know, there are people who are, you know, stuck between, do I heat my house or do I feed my children?
Well, you know, it's interesting you say that. The transportation secretary was on with I think it was Fox and Friends or something like that. Anyway, his rationale was, you know, 3 and 4 hour lines aren't really all that bad if you compare us to France or Italy, where you could be standing in security lines for 6 hours. And I'm going, what? You know, it's now going
It's
back.
always worse somewhere.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And where you go back to the airlines, and when we hit COVID, it seemed like, you know, of course, they're laying off people because they can't fly, and telling their pilots, well, if you're getting close to retirement, just retire. Well, now they're bagged because they don't have any pilots. So,
Yeah, I saw a story yesterday on TV. One of the airlines was offering 3 times normal pay over this holiday weekend for
wow.
pilots. 300%.
Oh my
And
goodness.
under the heading of things could always be worse, there's a utility commission in Great Britain. And every 6 months, they decide what the utilities can do vis-a-vis price rises, or should I even say declines? And in their April meeting, in their March meeting, which went into effect on April 1st, this commission was allowing the utilities to raise rates by 54%. I mean, can you
Wow.
imagine what it's like when you see the inflation in groceries at about, 40%, and you see the cost of heating your home possibly up another 50%. I mean, it's remarkable. Anyway, we have Duke Pitts with us, and he is from Healthy Extracts. How you doing, Duke?
Great, Charles. How you doing?
Great.
Yeah, Duke, can you please change the subject in a hurry?
Absolutely. We want to talk about people making money, not losing money right now.
Right. And what the company does on the basis of how they help people.
Absolutely. We're a vertical where we trade under the stock ticker symbol HYEX. We're an OTCQB stock that I've been working on for about 3 years now. But at its core, we're a platform for developing and acquiring companies that have high margins and high growth categories within the multi-billion-dollar nutraceutical market. But we have very specific niches that we do. That really lets us have competitive advantages and proprietary areas that build trust with consumers. We've acquired 2 companies so far, Bergamet, which is our heart health product, and Ultimate Brain Nutrients, which is our brain product.
Duke, on the subject of Bergamet, that's a very high profile name, isn't it?
It is. Bergamet is a natural citrus bergamot, and we actually have the natural citrus bergamot superfruit, where everybody else just has the citrus bergamot, which means our concentrations are higher. But what Bergamet does, or citrus bergamot does, is it literally is a natural statin without any side effects, up to 10 milligrams. But what's unique about it is if you just have higher cholesterol or have metabolic syndrome problems, it gets you into a situation where if you start on it early, you may not have to go on statins. And if you are on statins, it makes your statins work better. And I guarantee you the majority of your audience above 60 years old is on statins right now, but the doctors make them go up every single year in the milligrams they're taking, and therefore they're getting more side effects. So we actually work really well with statins also to help you with your cholesterol issues.
And I'm assuming that because you do business that way, that your product is generally acceptable to you from the standpoint of purity vis-a-vis other people who get it from other sources, maybe even other questionable sources.
Yeah, absolutely. We go through, we're a science-based company as a whole. So it's really important for us to have clinical trials on our own products, not just on the ingredients. And we're one of the few nutraceuticals in the world that does that. So we really go that extra mile to build trust. But the efficacy and bioavailability of Bergamet, our strength is 25% higher than everyone else. And our product is actually called BPF Gold. And we have the exclusive rights in the US for that. We're doctor recommended. As a matter of fact, our business was somewhat based on doctors until COVID hit and they shut all of the offices down. So we had to navigate over to direct to consumer, but we have hundreds of doctors in the US recommending our products to their patients.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I know that we, in the past, we had a couple of people on the show talking about psychedelics. Mm-hmm. Not very long ago. And one of the biggest things that they really harped upon was the degree of testing that they had gone through, even on not even on the product level, but the step before, to what the building blocks of the product were, and how dramatically that varied from from company to company. So I guess when you're talking about nutraceuticals, the evaluation of the purity and the I don't know what the word is, but as it is released into your system once you've taken it, is stepped up, because the purer it is, the more easily your body can kind of uptake the actual product.
Yeah, in addition to that, I mean, I hate to use vitamin C as an example, but when you take vitamin C, if your body doesn't need it, it doesn't absorb it. So it just goes in one end and goes out the other, so to speak. So with our product, the higher grade, the higher concentration of citrus bergamot superfruit is really important because we want you to absorb as much as you can, and that is a distinct advantage on what we do. We also have higher milligram dosages that we highly recommend for our customers also.
Yeah. Just out of curiosity, you've done enough testing, it seems, that unlike a lot of these companies, and certainly a lot of the smaller ones, they don't actually make any claims because they can't.
Yeah, no, we're not FDA approved, which no nutraceutical company that I'm aware of has FDA approval. Otherwise, they'd be considered a pharmaceutical, or at least they're what they're doing. But you have to be, again, very careful on the claims that you make. So that is part of our navigation that we have to utilize, but we can use our clinical trials where most people cannot. But you still have to be very careful in what you say for FDA requirements. One of our products on our Ultimate Brain Nutrient side, our migraine formulation that we just finished publishing another clinical trial, it naturally reduces migraines by 61%. It has fewer episodes. Quality of life really improves. The duration is dramatically reduced on migraines, and then it also gives you better cognitive, which is really rare in the migraine. I don't know of any formulation in the world that does that, but we have been working for a couple of years to get FDA approval to make claims on that. So there'll be verbal claims, but not full FDA approval.
And aren't the clinical trials and stuff generally pretty expensive? I mean, is that, I know you're obviously doing it, and I'm guessing that most companies, smaller and less efficient companies, are not.
Yeah, they don't do that because it is expensive, but we've found a very efficient way of doing that. And long term, as nutraceuticals become, that industry is just imploding as a whole, especially as the younger generations come up, and our generations too, Charles, are in a position that we're more acceptant to natural formulations, where was a segment of the population that, hey, if my doctor isn't prescribing and it's not FDA approved, I'm not going to do it. And I think that's really changing in leaps and bounds and at a very fast rate.
Duke, something that I've noticed on television is that it seems like it's almost every break that there is some new migraine type of pharmaceutical out there. So it's interesting that you guys are doing a nutraceutical in that field.
Yeah, it's really, I think it brings awareness to that. And what's important about that is that if you look at the side effects of all of those, I mean, it's scary. I mean, my mom suffered from migraines, my sister suffered from migraines. And for me to look at something like that, and I know I've had specific conditions myself, when you start looking at the side effects, it's like, I'm not going to do that. I know it's 1% or 3% or 5%, but I don't want to lose my hair. This is one of the few good attributes I have left at my age. So we'll keep that intact. And but again, migraines are such a serious, debilitating condition that you'll do just about anything to get rid of that. And our product is actually, our clinical trials are more impressive than what the migraine formulations put out that are prescription. And when I say that, go to their website. They'll go through one that I was just recently on, said, well, we did a clinical trial on 687 people, and it helped the majority of the 687 people, but it didn't say how much it helped them. And so our clinicals are very impressive. If anyone wants to look at those, you can go to tryubn.com and you can pull up the clinical trials on that, because almost everybody on the call here or on the show knows that someone who suffers from migraines, and it really is truly debilitating.
Well, on getting back to the television commercials again, you talk about side effects.
Oh, they're scary.
Oh, yeah. Well, you've got about 20 or maybe 25 seconds of message, and then 35 seconds of disclaimers on side effects. It's terrifying.
Yeah, and the fact is, I think that they use the guy who used to do the FedEx commercials, who talked really quickly.
Yes.
I have a feeling that that's what they're using, or they're speeding it up, because you absolutely cannot understand what they are.
No, no.
Going into it. I mean, and frankly, it's no different in the pet medicine that they advertise all the time. I'm going to give my dog something that is good for fleas and ticks and heartworm, but it's going to make her have, diarrhea and be lackadaisical. And I mean, why would I do that?
Absolutely.
And do that to yourself.
Well, in all of our products, that's one of the things that we do in our 7-step process, is try and find products that only have positive side effects. I mean, our heart health, we have trouble making claims on certain things, but we know that, for example, in our women's heart product, and, by the way, cardiovascular disease kills over 680,000 people a year in this country. It's by far the number one cause of death. I mean, people think in terms of COVID as a pandemic, which it was, and it's horrifying, but heart disease and cardiovascular disease worldwide, as well as in the US, is an epidemic. And we've got to get that under control through a little bit of self-reliance. You've got to start doing things, whether it be exercise, eat a little better, change your lifestyle up a little bit, because we all got to start participating in helping the healthcare system. I mean, 20% of our GDP is spent on preventable healthcare right now. On healthcare that would be preventable. So we're treating this. The healthcare industry is treating things that are preventable from a consumer's perspective.
And Duke, what is the website address for the company?
Well, Healthy Extracts, which is the parent company or the publicly traded company, is healthyextractsinc.com. That's healthyextractsinc.com. And again, we trade under the ticker symbol HYEX. And I'd love to tell you kind of how the company came about, a little bit about myself, actually, if you're interested in that.
That absolutely would be great. But my point in the web address is because you have this terrific presentation that shows all of the information from, the company and what it does, and the projections of the growth going forward in the nutraceutical, the brain health, and the heart health market. And I think that people would really be interested in seeing that.
Absolutely. And there's an area of the website, if you scroll down a little bit, where it says subscribe. If you guys subscribe, one of my big things as the president CEO, being an investor myself, not only in this company and other companies, the one thing I really appreciate is the upper management communicating with the investor. And so we have a real good plan in place for optimum communications. And if you sign up, that will send you the presentation. If you subscribe, we'll send you the presentation out.
That's great, because it's common sense. It's laid out really well, and it follows in a very predictable way, showing people what your company is all about.
Yeah, our company really, I started my first company right out of high school in the 70s. And I've always been a big believer in three things: foundation of the company, financials, and followers. And if you have the 3 Fs, you can be successful in just about anything you do. Obviously, market conditions vary that, but we really live by that in our policies as a company and our employees as they come on board. As a matter of fact, I didn't do shows like this that I'm doing with you, Charles, until a month ago, a little over a month ago. And it's because as the president and CEO, I can't go out and give you guys a strong pitch on the company or information on the company without actually feeling like I would invest myself. Right. And we're at a position now where I am heavily invested myself. That's another good thing as people look at the company, because I'm going to make this work or die trying, one of the two. And two is that I'm just really passionate about what we do as a company. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. I got involved in it because of family and personal issues, which we can go into if you guys want. But for the investors, I mean, now is really a great time to look at what we're doing because of all the things that we have in place from a foundational basis. Our financials, which we can cover, we're cash flow neutral, hope to be cash flow positive by the end of third quarter. And then we're building our business with our sales channels as we progress here in a very fast pace.
Yeah, I see under the current and planned sales channels in the production, in the deck that you sent me, I guess it's page 12. It's pretty impressive from the standpoint of, you know, how you're doing it from the ground up, which is, you know, I'm all for, you know, the new and current and explosive social distribution, but you guys are, you know, I see your stuff. It's on Amazon. I mean, it's distributed through doctors, it's Facebook, it's TikTok. I mean, it's there's an awful lot here. And how is the outside the U.S. distribution going?
Well, at current, we're not outside of North America, and we really are focused on the U.S. because we want to optimize our U.S. But we do have plans. We work with one of our vendors that we work with, which I'll go a little more into if you want, called Gel Tech. They're out of Australia, but we have huge contacts in India, the UK, and parts of Europe. So it's just a matter of getting everything in place in the U.S., and then we can start looking at external in the European markets as well as Asian markets.
And I'm just curious, how do you compare price-wise to things that I might be able to use through my insurance? Is there any plan to go in that direction also?
Yeah, I think that's one of the challenges as a nutraceutical company. Unless you're FDA approved, the insurance company is not going to pay for that product. But we're really reasonably priced. I hate to use a bad analogy, but we all spend money every month that we have disposable income, and we choose what to spend that on. But our company is Healthy Extracts Inc. Live Life Young Again. I'm early 60s myself, so I'm always trying to live life a little younger again. Recently had rotator cuff and bicep surgery from a little too much water skiing, but if any of us as we mature, I don't care if we're 30 or 35, if we could turn the clocks back a little bit on our health. I mean, everything for me is about health. If you have your health, you literally can't, there's nothing you can't accomplish. And I have so many friends around me and family that, you know, have either passed recently or very ill. And you really get an appreciation for your health. My son grew up with, well, he has it obviously now, still cystic fibrosis. So he was supposed to pass by age 31. And to see him go through his battles that he has is one of the main reasons I got involved in the company. I had a heart attack at 55. My dad had a heart attack at 52. And I didn't have any negative conditions. I was in the best shape of my life. So there's a certain amount of things that we have to do to check things out to make sure that doesn't happen to us. My grandfather died of dementia. So these are all big focuses of the company. And because of my marketing background in a Fortune 200 company for 10 years, I pioneered the direct marketing department from scratch. We really are in a position, I think, to do well as a company, because if you have a product that works for people, you can find the $30 a month or the $60 a month or $100 a month that you need to, if you're willing to give up something else. And I always argue with people. They say they don't have the money. If you want your brain and your heart working the best, which is what has to work for the rest of everything else to work, then you can find the dollars that you need to do that.
Yeah, your $10 Starbucks.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yes. Wow. Well, if you could enumerate what you've got, I mean, you've talked about, I think the super fruits sounds great. And the migraine and the heart. What else is on your roster?
So our Brain Activate, which is a phenomenal product. There's a lot of products out there. I'll mention them. I don't care. Prevagen, Nueva. You see them on the news channels at night. And they don't even have a real clinical trial on their own product, yet they're $700 million, $500 million brands, right? And they provide certain aspects that will work for people to a certain degree. But a lot of the brain products out there have caffeine in it. Our Brain Activate, if you could feed your brain the best food in the world every single day, that would optimize your brain. That's what Brain Activate does for you. So it literally, we own the trademark Ketonomics, and what it does is it puts your brain in a near keto state or a neurogenesis. So we're activating neurons that have not been activated in the brain because they're dormant or they've never been activated. And we prove that with actual EEGs on our clinical trial, where we provide 46% brain activations. Now, here's the kicker: no caffeine and no sugar. And we do it for up to 8 hours. Now, you don't get this buzz like you do with Red Bull or one of the energy drinks. But what you do is you'll get consistent improvement for focus and memory. And as we know, our brains actually start declining at age 32, believe it or not. And all of us worry about cognitive as we get older.
Yeah, I noticed that I had a migraine issue, and they gave me something for it, a prescription for it, and it was actually mostly caffeine, I think.
Yeah, it gives you, in the migraines, caffeine can help people, but the long-term effects are that not necessarily positive. And again, with the way that the pathways work for migraines, if we can help keep those pathways open, then that's what our product can really help with that way. And like I said, our product's the only product in the world for migraines. Now, there are two different products we're talking about: Activate and Relief. We also have several new products coming out in the next 4 to 6 months also that we can talk about. But those two products for your brain, like I said, if you could feed your brain anything, it's the optimum diet, and it tastes great. We have two different ways of taking it, either in a gel form or a powder. Worked great with coffee. And it's just something that everyone on this call could benefit from.
And what's the division between how you actually do the marketing? I mean, where do most of your sales come from? Amazon or direct to consumer, or how is that working for you?
Yeah, it's a combination of everything. And if I'm an investor, again, looking at the company, I want to know that the sales plan that you guys have is really ready to ramp up. So a couple things to look at. We have a lifetime value customer. Once you get on the product, you stay on the product. And so a person who's buying $40 or $50 worth of product, let's say, and it may cost us that much to acquire that consumer, he turns into a $500 to $700 lifetime value customer. And again, I came from a residual model in a Fortune 200 company, so well aware of what that does for our valuation as a company. But to answer your question on our marketing, it is several silos that we work with. We work with Amazon, obviously, is one silo that we do very well in. We're the third top selling product in Amazon on our heart health products. We just on Tuesday launched in natural grocers. They're the most difficult retailer from a ingredient perspective to get approved on, which brings us a lot of credibility with our Ultimate Brain Nutrients product. We are direct to consumer with our products. So we have our doctor distributor base. We have 2 distributors that cover over 30,000 doctors. They're the 2 largest distributors in the country. And then we also white label our products. And then the thing I'm most excited about is our new influencer program, which is different than any other influencer program in the industry. Our first influencer is a fitness, health and fitness advocate named Whitney Johns. She's also a brilliant businesswoman, but we've launched 4 products with her out of the gate. She has 1 million followers. The difference between our influencer program and others is we actually make products because of our technology and our science. We're able to make a product quickly out of the gate for the influencers. So they literally get their own brand. I believe she can become kind of the Christy Brinkley of the nutrition business. And again, it's Whitney Johns Nutrition. Right now we have 4 products with her, and because she has 1 million followers, we can really cut our marketing costs down, and we make it turnkey. We don't pay the influencer. The influencer has to sell product in order to get paid. So they're very integrated in the sales and marketing aspect of it, and we make it really easy for the influencers as they come on.
Duke, what is your website again?
So our corporate website is healthyextractsinc.com. That's healthyextractsinc.com. And then you'll see our heart health product website as well as our brain product health website under there. But make sure you sign up for the newsletter so that we can get you guys out the deck and keep you informed of what's going on. I generally do 1 video a week, kind of giving updates. We generally average a press release every single week. The company, if you look at it over the last 2 years, like I said, I'm so excited where we're at right now in every aspect of things. But our product or our Healthy Extracts stock has stayed stable during all this downturn. And what's exciting about that is I've always been able to grow businesses in recessive times. And I think the stock is at 6 cents right now. It's just an unbelievable buy for someone to get into it. And instead of looking at your stocks that have dropped 30% that are going to take 2 to 3 years to come back, you have the opportunity with ours to really get into a high return, assuming we can continue to execute like we are.
Charles, what kind of a downturn is Duke talking about? I don't. Everything is so nice. If you
minor move in the S&P.
Oh gosh! Wow, this sounds absolutely amazing. What it really hit me, Duke, was when you were talking about all the new products are going to be coming out in the next quarter. I mean, that sounds real exciting to me.
Yeah, that we've got, and again, we'll be doing some announcement on about Whitney Johns is a big brain and gut health person. She has 2 brain products right now. The gut health is she has a sports product and then a hormone product for women. But we'll be working on a gut health. Our initial studies have been unbelievable on it. The delivery system is different than anything else in the world. And that market is projected in 6 years to be a $77 billion market. So that is
her stuff is actually, you're actually co-branding, it looks like, with her. Her products,
yeah,
her name on them as well.
They're actually her product line, and that's what's exciting about it is some of her products right now are white labeled, but some of her products will be her own formulation, and that's why she got involved. She was very integral in us putting together this influencer program because we have a list of other influencers that we want to utilize, but this is an area of tremendous growth possibilities. She has a number of videos out. We have a YouTube Healthy Extract station channel also. You can look at her there, or you can look at her on our website on some of her press releases. But she is extremely passionate about getting people healthy as we are, and getting their health so that they can do the things they want to do.
You know, what I find interesting about the stock is the fact that it's 73% insider held.
Yes, and again, that's important for us. There's a lot of people get scared because there's a lot of shares outstanding, but again, that's 73% of that is insider, and really, it's more in my mind higher than that. But there's only 16 million tradable shares right now, and so there's tremendous upside with the stock based on the minimal amount of shares that are tradable at this point in time.
I have always talked to people that I'm involved with, and I was also a broker for 40 years. But I've always found that there are 100 reasons for insiders to sell stock, valid reasons, estate planning, taxes, like Mr. Musk did, because he was exercising so many shares, he was creating a huge tax liability. But there's really only one reason for insiders to buy and hold and own shares, and that's because they feel that they're undervalued and they have a big upside. And you know, whenever I've seen this kind of internal ownership, it's always a flag for me to be more than interested, because you know, people who are earning their livelihood are investing in it and keeping it, and so that generally has a very positive long-term effect on the stock.
Yeah, no question. Jay Decker, who is our major shareholder in the company, he is kind of co-founder along myself in putting the healthy extracts together. He actually owned the Bergamet rights to Bergamet NA. And he got in, he's done this before in the publicly traded space. He was in the oil and gas back in the 90s and has taken companies from zero to $1 billion on more than one occasion. And so he's a very good friend of the company. He also, believe it or not, he's really in this to help people. He just gets more of a kick out of seeing people get healthy. I mean, every day we get in comments, like I got one from Sandy yesterday that I'm so excited. My cholesterol dropped 60 points in 3 months. I feel so much better. I mean, there's so much satisfaction in that, and a drive to continue to get the word out and bring other products out that will really help. But Jay is looking at this long term as potentially an exit strategy if we're ever bought by another company. But all of the insiders that I'm aware of, they're sitting and they want the long-term plan on this. And that's what you need in a company to be successful in for our shareholders. For me, being a shareholder myself, investing a lot of my own dollars myself, I run the company as if every penny is my own. As a matter of fact, I probably am harder on it because I'm harder on myself when I spend other people's money. I know we're not talking about the government here, but I'm the complete polar opposite. If I get other people's money, it's harder for me to spend that, and I watch it like a hawk. So I think all of our management that we have in place is great. They've done this rodeo before. Our long-term plans, we definitely want to uplist and get on the big boy market, and I'm hoping that's not too far away as we acquire other companies that will allow us to grow the company and get in a position fairly quickly to do that, hopefully.
Well, you need to congratulate Jay for no longer being in oil and gas.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at the senior management team, and it really is terrific. J. Scott Landers, he actually has worked at one of my favorite companies, CenturyLink, who, just did a great job and ended up in a in a merger of equals. I can't remember who that was with, but they were a major backbone where CenturyLink was just a basic wireline service, you know, the old fashioned stuff. You know, I mean, Martin Bridge, I mean, operations and customer relations growing Subway, which is, you know, certainly a huge deal. So yeah, no, I mean, it's pretty interesting. And I think that it's definitely set up to succeed. Are you staying with your estimate for 22 revenue growth?
Yeah, absolutely. Our first 2 quarters are slower 2 quarters of the year, but we've had well over 100% growth versus last year. You know, with me, we run into problems like everybody does every day, right? And it really isn't about the problem, it's how you handle the problem. When COVID hit, I mean, literally the majority of our business was done at the doctors, and they got shut down. The majority got shut down, and it was the second round that really hurt us when they got shut down the second time, because they're not focused on giving their patients supplements. They're focused on, obviously, life and death. And so we had to pivot very quickly in the second round in 2020 to go to direct to consumer. And it took us 2 quarters to do that. But in the time factor, that's a really relatively short time to pivot. And we actually still were able to grow our business dramatically in that time. Our doctor distribution channels are now coming back at this point in time. And we have our direct to consumer going. We have our influencer program going. We have our retailers going. So our outlook is extremely good on fast-paced sales and revenue growth.
And direct to consumer, is there a big margin advantage there?
There is. You always have to calculate your marketing costs in there, right. But overall, our goals is to grow our customer base and generate leads where we have a constant communication plan. I mean, I talked about churn earlier and lifetime value. I mean, once you get a customer, so many companies do not focus on what they have to do to keep that customer. And we try and provide both information as well as product information for that consumer that we're looking at. So that is a major focus of the company and will continue to be. Eventually, I hope we're not advertising at all other than to our existing customer base, because having that customer, like I told you about before, recommending that to her son because their family is genetically bound to have heart disease. Those kinds of things are where we really can build our company and keep our marketing costs down.
Yeah. Well, it's really an interesting company. I really enjoyed going through that deck and seeing everything there. You know, the stock being where it is and being cheap, you know, when you talk about the value of a company, as it gets more and more mature, what you generally tend to see is that the PE is a function of growth. So a company that's growing at 100% a year, it's not unusual to have a 40 or 50 or 60 PE going forward because of that kind of growth. I mean, I know that that's a pretty simple way of looking at it. You know, obviously with the amount of work that you're doing with customers and the number of leads that you're getting in, that, you know, by virtue of the fact that it's, you know, online and you're capturing all of the email addresses for that. I mean, it's just as easy to start to market the company to your customers in the same way that you market your product to it. I know that a lot of, and I know that you're not in this position, But I do know that a lot of CEOs look at a company, and when they talk to shareholders, or they talk to prospective shareholders, or they do something like this interview, a lot of times they say, oh, well, I'm just building my company and the stock will follow along. It doesn't.
Yeah, no,
Does not,
absolutely. Yeah.
it does not work that way. And the ability to market the stock to people the same way that you market your product, and the ability, I know Greg and I have had a lot of companies on over the years where, you know, the CEO has said, this is what we're going to do. And they go ahead and do it. And then they come on and they tell us, this is what we said we were going to do, and we've done it. This is what we're going to do next. Are the companies that have, you know, have really moved. We had a guy who was in a business that was, I think the stock sold for 40 or 50 cents, and he was marketing a product that was really interesting. It was actually a delivery system that did not require electricity for infusion. And he said he was going to do this, and he went ahead and did it. And then he came back on. He was on all the time, giving people the opportunity to see the progress. And that stock actually went to about $6 or $7 over a period of 3 or 4 years. And, you know, I think that investors are going to start to look at some of these names and have a longer term perspective. You know, when you have a market downturn like we've had here, you get a lot of people who get scared and they immediately go from growth to value. But I can make the argument that a company that is growing as quickly as this is, in an industry that is growing as quickly as this is, and is, quote, for the public good. We're not selling cigarettes or vaping, you know, we're selling, you know, a solution, you know, has a huge, huge upside. And, you know, this company clearly sounds that way.
Well, and I appreciate that, Charles and Greg. Thanks so much for having me on today. I just will kind of close from my perspective on we follow those 3 F's: foundation, financials, and followers. And all of those are in place. And what that means to me is that we get that snowball effect. And that's where you break through. And companies, in my mind, great companies are created from these 3 F's. And again, I wasn't ready to come out and talk about the company really in the public because I didn't feel that we were ready. We're ready now. And I think anyone that is looking to potentially have real upside, I would consider us very strongly as a company.
Great.
That sounds great, Charles.
Why don't you give the company website and the symbol again before we close?
Sure. It's healthyextractsinc.com. That's healthyextractsinc.com. And we're trading under HYEX.
Great.
Sounds good.
Thank you guys so much for having me on.
All
We'll
right.
look forward to hearing from you again.
Yep. Boy, what an amazing guy, Charles. And thank you so much. And we'll see you soon. Charles Moskowitz, Money Info on WPSL, Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.